Deputy Governor. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Lovely to be here.
So had you previously considered joining politics prior to this announcement?
I have always said politics is too important to be left to politicians. That has always been my belief.
Okay. So it was something that was on your mind. You're known for your corporate background. How did you end up teaming up with Senator Sonko?
You know, I've been a consumer goods salesman for most of my career. Sold Coca-Cola, sold beer, sold ball pens, shampoo. And I got to know Senator Sonko in my trade a couple of years back as a very good street community mobilizer who then organized a lot of young people to buy products which could then help them in their lives. And we kept in touch on and off over the years, and I'm very proud that he's now my boss.
All right, but how did you end up in that team, becoming part of Team Nairobi?
I got shortlisted by Senator Sonko, who was then looking for a running mate, and he asked me, "Polly, send me your CV." I said, "Are you serious?" And he said, "Yes, send me your CV." I'm looking at several candidates, and he's a very grassroots. He's perhaps one of Kenya's best grassroots mobilizers, and he went ahead and did a poll. And then I saw him walk up in the office. He called me in the morning and told me, "I think you're the man for the job," and I was delighted.
Yeah, and speaking of that poll, it was on social media, and basically it put up a list of nominees, all of them being from the central Kenya region, a clear indication that the strategy was to find a candidate who would bring in the vote from that area in Nairobi. And now that Peter Kenneth has re-entered the race, does this pose a challenge for you?
It has nothing to do with Central Province. Senator Sonko and I are tribeless. He does not believe in this narrative that keeps being pushed about tribes. He believes in merit, and he believes in representing the people in Kenya who've been disrespected, held in contempt, and completely left outside. And
yet, even with that said, everyone who was shortlisted for that position and posted on social media was from one region. Well, is that coincidence?
That was Senator Sonko's list.
Right, and you're here defending Senator Sonko and the fact that he's tribeless, etc. But there was clearly a calculation that this person must be from a particular region.
Senator Sonko was looking for competence. He was not looking for identity. Let's stick with the issue. We must move from always looking at identity and move to issues. And the issue here is competence to get Nairobi going again, to fix a place that's been neglected for a very long time habitually.
So even if it was a question of competence, it all came from one region?
It's competence. I'm sticking with competence.
All right. So what exactly will be your role as Deputy Governor? Should you become Deputy Governor?
And one of the most necessary things in leadership is managerial competence and the ability to get a job done. And to do that, you must have bandwidth for the job. So my role is to bring managerial, organizational bandwidth into the ticket, into the county government of Nairobi. Sonko obviously brings political bandwidth into the county of Nairobi, and together we make a formidable team.
Okay. What is it that you believe beyond the managerial experience that you bring to the ticket?
I also bring a very strong political base that's been ignored largely and dismissed as Twitterati. I bring the community of small, medium and big-sized businesses who feel there is a lot that could be done better of, more of, and different of to make Nairobi really fly and achieve its dream. Turn it back into a thing of beauty, what it has always been.
And can you quantify that base? How many votes do you bring to the ticket?
I think let's wait for August 8th. And we can do the count together then.
And it will be difficult, of course, to tell what you brought in, because it will be a joint ticket. There is the feeling also that there has been a very strong interest by Central Kenyan leaders, if you like, in this particular race, given the kind of business interests that they have in Nairobi. Do you feel that kind of pressure?
I don't feel that I'm a Central Kenya candidate. I am, and if you look at my story, I've grown up everywhere in this country. I am a Nairobian, and Nairobi is 60% of Kenya's GDP. this is a gate to our country. It's really trivializing. It's really trivializing Kenya when we always have to discuss candidates in light of their tribes and their ethnicity.
Nobody wants to do that, but the reality, even from the last election, shows that this country voted on tribal lines. I'm not suggesting that that is how it should be done. I am saying that is what happens on the ground. Having said that, though, do you feel that you represent business interests?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think that's really what I stand for. I represent businesses, and businesses have felt for a very long time that they've been speaking on the sidelines. So I'm very happy to take a leap of faith to represent their needs and their interest, and to actually do that with with Mike Sonko, who's really a gravitas of politics in Nairobi. I'm very proud to be part of Team Nairobi, and with Senator Sakaja too.
You talked a little bit about your political base. Those you said are being referred to as Twitterati, etc. Is it about 7 days since your candidacy was announced? Pundits have said all sorts of things regarding yourself. One of the more scathing being that since you bring quote-unquote no vote, you should expect no voice at the table once decisions are being made. How do you feel about that statement?
I've been chairman of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers for very many years, 2 years. I was vice chairman for 2 years. I've chaired the Petroleum Institute of East Africa. I've been a director of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. I've been a trustee of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. I can tell you combined we were contributing 1.2 trillion shillings in taxes. Now, if you don't call that a political base, I don't know what you would call that if you don't call that a political base. All the taxes...
It's a financial base, certainly a significant one. But in terms of numbers, how big is that?
Well, we'll see on August 8th. We'll convert that tax-paying base into real votes, because we have a lot of employees around the private sector, both small, from Juakali all the way up. And I think for me that's the base I bring. I don't bring a tribe. Yeah,
and it's interesting because you talk about the tax bracket base, and one would argue that Senator Sonko, as you have called him, the grassroots mobilizer in chief, if you like, already has that base. So in terms of white collar going up, which is what one would imagine then that you add, quantifying that is going to be the challenge, isn't it?
I think this is a merger between two people from very different backgrounds who agree on a certain issue that we really need to fix the heart of this country, where 60% of the economy, the income of the economy is, and it has nothing to do with social class. And we are obviously out there mobilizing for votes once the Firimbi for campaign starts on 28th of May, and we shall canvass for the votes just like our competitors will do aggressively, and we shall canvass on issues. And our issues are simple: is to make Nairobi clean and bright, is to make Nairobi safe and secure, is to make Nairobi have jobs and prosperity, is to make Nairobi lush and green again, and last but not least, make Nairobi livable and hospitable, and get people moving. We're coming with a level of simplicity, focus, a simple strategy, and focus on it so that we can execute with speed. We just have to clean up. We really need to clean up this city, and I think there's unanimous vote that there's a lot in Nairobi that needs fixing at the moment.
I think everybody would agree with that, certainly. I want to return to the question of your role, and you've talked about the managerial expertise that you bring in, and you know, the role, as I have mentioned, of the deputy governor is not something that is clearly defined in law. In your own agreements with the governor, have you tried to define this role a little bit more in terms of what exactly you'd be doing day to day?
And it's something I've learned in my 20 years as a corporate executive. Irrespective of the contracts you sign between two people, however long pages you have, if you don't shake hands and look one another in the eye and say, are we here to serve? Nothing works. So we have an agreement that is binding in honor and in letter, that I will support running the administration of this county, and my boss, obviously Senator Sonko, who will then be governor, will lead me in the politics of the county, and we think we're going to do a good job. We are asking Nairobis to give us a chance.
And if that is the case, if you do actually end up being this kind of executive deputy, if you like, running the day-to-day affairs of the county, the political season will have been over. What people actually elect a governor for is to do that work. So one wonders what politics the senator would be, the governor then would be engaging in, and if you're going to be the one running shop.
That's a really good question, because it invites us to acknowledge the structure of government. There's judiciary, there's executive, and there's legislature, and it requires a lot of political maneuvers and political influence to be able to win and deliver for people. And that is the work of Senator Sonko. But the administration bit of it, I will run. But I will run clearly working for him, in partnership with him. He is the boss. I am working for him.
Some would go as far as asking, if you're going to be doing the, for lack of a better term, donkey work, why not put yourself up for governor? Why shouldn't we elect you as opposed to Senator Sonko? Because at the end of the day, Kenyans look to governors to deliver certain things. If you're going to be the hand doing it, why shouldn't it be your candidacy at the very top?
I guess it's humility.
It's humility.
I think it's just the ability to actually say.
Wow.
I think it's actually the ability to actually say, let me succeed in a small way rather than fail in a big way. And it's my first time in politics. I'm very happy to be an apprentice to Senator Sonko, to learn, and I will do that going forward in the future.
Currently, a significant number of deputy governors have fallen out with their governors, and basically they have been, reduced to reading the newspapers and, showing up every day to work. What guarantees do you have that once elected you will not have just been used as a political tool?
There are no guarantees in life. I've told you I've taken a leap of faith. I've come here to serve, and we've had long meetings and a lot of engagements with Senator Sonko, and I don't see that being his target, and that being his interest, to want to have somebody swiveling with a chair in an office to do that. And clearly we are having a lot of meetings, a lot of policy meetings, and very soon we shall unveil our manifesto, which I think will answer your very valid question around who will play what role and what can people expect. And it's been a shame, you're right, that two people elected on the same ticket end up fighting half the time. But you know why? It's because of our political culture, and I bring a very different political culture. I bring a culture of just getting things done. I always say, I've learned in 20 years that to be a leader you must be egoless. If you bring your ego to the table, which is what we see with a lot of politicians in our country, I think that's a problem, and I think that's why we need fresh faces, because I want to do this. I still want to play the politics, but a very different type of politics. And I ask Kenyans to judge me, especially Nairobians. Okay.
Finally, and we're going to have you a little later on Game Plan 2017, so he is staying with us on the program. But before we get there, we've seen there are a lot of people in the city who would agree with the grassroots mobilization of Senator Sonko, but who take a lot of exception to his other style of politics. Many still see him as raw, as crude, as ungovernable, as uncontrollable. You've seen him punching walls and other, frankly, shocking things that many do not expect to be part of an elected leader. Having said that, at least on JKL, we saw him in a clean-cut suit. But people are left to wonder, does the suit change the man? Or is he still what we saw him as in the few years that he's been active in politics?
Okay, my boss, who we are running on the same ticket, is a dynamic man. And his dynamism delivers results. He was the third biggest voted person in the last elections. You can't doubt that. And he won a ticket. And today, if you go to rallies, he's still perhaps he attracts the largest crowds and cuts across ethnic identities and everything. Surely you can't argue with that. Just like in business, you can't argue with a good balance sheet, a cash flow, or income statement. In politics, it's the votes.
You're saying as long as he brings the votes, that's all that counts?
No. But those are your words. I will tell you what he does is he's been dynamic now. We've seen him move towards leadership. And I really admire that, and we support him, and he's going to make a very, very good governor and make Kenyans proud. What he's doing is bringing unity. It's there in our political pillar of Vision 2030. that we need equity and inclusion. We can't keep on dismissing Senator Sonko just because he's more colorful and more expressive than we are. He represents a constituency that was feeling, as I told you, very disrespected, very left out of the equation, and talked down upon. So his gate crashed to a wonderful power party, and he's doing a good job. I'm very proud to be part of his team.
And we'll be talking a little later with, of course, Polycarp Igathe. Polycarp, before we get into our panel, I want to give you a few of the audience questions. So let's take a look at what you've been writing in and have Polycarp answer it. Did Mike Sonko consult you to become his running mate, or are you a state house project?
Mike Sonko consulted me, and I accepted.
And he consulted someone else before consulting you?
I don't know.
You don't know about that part. Okay, let's see what else you are saying to us. Agriculture feeds Nairobi. What would be Polycarp Igathe's plan in reviving agribusiness in the city?
I think we've got to protect our riverines and the three lungs of Nairobi: Karura, Ngong Forest, Arboretum. We have to protect our water. Our water comes 50 kilometers away from the Tana Basin. We really need to look at secure water sources and clean water sources, because water and agriculture is a core part, and how we feed and move the city. So all of this is included in our manifesto, which will be unveiling soon.
All right, let's see what else you're writing in. Deputy Governor works under the like of Governor. Does he think Mike Sonko will let him work?
Yes, otherwise I would not have left my job to come for this responsibility, because what I have done is, I'm not looking for a job. I came for a responsibility, the responsibility of fixing Nairobi. And that actually just takes me back a little bit to the answer which you gave regarding the nature of your agreement, and you said very much it is based on trust, but is it equally in letter? Is there a document perhaps that you have signed, some sort of formal agreement with the senator? A document in our heart. Okay, so nothing on paper. Hearts change. When you can write it on paper, but as long as it's in your hearts and minds, that's a very good agreement. And our agreement is the Jubilee Party vision for Nairobi. Let's take a final question here. What is Igathe's top priority? He's a performer. Nairobians have high expectations. How will he reverse Kidero Evans' misdeeds? Priorities, let's start with that first part. I think when you have to fix something that is broken, you've got to use two engines. One, the engine of consequence management. And the engine of Twende Kazi. We will focus on both. There's a lot of audit trail letters that have been written. There's a lot of mark around what's going on at the moment. We promise that there'll be consequence management, and part of that consequence management will also be we will drive that through the legal channels and through the normal channels of consequence management. And I can tell you, Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko is the chief consequence manager of Nairobi going forward. And you're the Twende Kazi guy. And I'm the Twende Kazi guy. Okay. Well, you heard it here on Sunday Live. We'll be taking a short break. We're back with Game Plan 2017, and our resident analyst Haman Manyora joins us alongside Ambrose Weda, and of course the governor, deputy governor in waiting, at least he believes he is, will be staying with us. We'll see. Stay with us on Sunday Live.